This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pornian Bakery. If you're located in the Pornian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pornian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Is there anything you want to cover in particular? I have some pretty interesting health things that I was like, oh, this is new.
No, I'm just waiting on PlayStation Showcase. But that's in June though.
Okay.
Likely to be. I already started recording, but likely to be in June. I just don't know. They haven't announced anything yet. Yeah.
That's lame.
Because they got it.
Yeah, you got me into.
They have quite a few. Their lineup is pretty good. So we're waiting on the new Spider-Man, the new Wolverine.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The new.
Okay.
Bunch of other stuff that they're doing. So.
Okay, that's dope.
New Konami. So there's a lot.
Konami.
To look for.
Konami.
Or not Konami.
What's Konami?
Not Konami. Sorry. Kojima.
Oh, he's gonna do something.
Yeah, I think he's working on a project. So maybe there's a tease.
Oh, okay, that's dope.
I don't know.
Okay. Ooh, interesting.
For PlayStation, that I'm seeing a lot of like clashes in the sense like there's nothing going for Xbox right now. That's a big problem.
All right. Okay. So like, I feel like Xbox has just been totally like pushed aside. Like we were looking at the other, what was like the Square thing, the thing that they were coming out with, and we're like, oh, it looks like trash.
Well,
do you remember that? Like,
yeah, they have two, right? Series X, Series S. Is that what you're talking about? For Xbox?
Yeah, it looks like a box, and then we were like looking at the graphics, and we're like, yeah, and it didn't even look that good.
Yeah, that's because they wanted to have something in between. You don't have to pay $500 to pay, I don't know, $400, let's say.
Oh, that's lame. Yeah. Like, it was like a digital one or something. One's with the CD, one's with like digital. Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Since we've already started recording, we're talking about video games. I want to talk about how you got me into the Switch. After our little conversation, I don't know if we recorded that after the conversation or was it like after? No, we didn't.
I think we were.
I think we talked about it a bit.
But yeah, we were.
Okay.
In that part, yeah.
Yeah, you got me into the Switch because like I was like, I can't just sit here in front of my computer well, I'm already sitting in front of my computer all day, but then to add more time just playing video games, like, oh, it's so difficult. And then I was like, what is the Switch up to? And then you're like, oh yeah, they're like so innovative, blah blah. And because I'm going to the Philippines, I was like, what am I going to play on the plane? Like, what am I do? You know, I could burn through a book, like few books, but then you got to carry that everywhere. And it's like, I don't want to bring a book like on the trip. Like, because for that long, you need
like how many books?
A number of books.
Yeah.
Exactly, right, yeah. So it's like, if it's just one, 4-hour flight, it's like, okay, that's like one book. I'm good. But this is like 13 plus, like some almost 19 maybe with layovers. So I'm going to need something.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like looking at the Switch, and then all the ads came out for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
so I don't know if it's a. Yeah. So I bought that right away on Amazon Prime. Yeah, I used your Prime and like got the game because it was like sold out everywhere.
Oh really?
I
saw a video. I've seen so many like now TikToks on the new game, and then like there's also I think in Toronto there was a lineup to get it at midnight.
Yeah. Okay. So, with that, when I was like calling my sister, and she's searching up places like Walmart was sold out, Best Buy was sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, why don't I just check Amazon? Amazon had it. I was like, oh, okay. Why do I have to wait in line? Same day delivery. But I didn't play it yet. That's the thing. So I wanted to say like okay, after our conversation, you were like about the Switch. You were like, don't buy it yet because it seems like they're gonna release something, right? But I'm desperate for something to play on the plane ride.
That's fine.
So
Yeah.
Amazon, not Amazon Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. So I didn't want to pay full price. So it was
Mm.
$450 in store plus tax for the OLED, like the latest model. Guess how much I bought it for on Amazon? Oh no, Facebook Marketplace.
Like 250. Let's say half that.
Oh, it's pretty good. $200.
Okay, that's not
I
bad.
was like, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. That's not bad, right?
Yeah.
200
Yeah.
bucks. And then I just bought the game too. So I was like, all right, I spent $300. We're good. Like that'll last me a while. But then I saw speedrunners were beating the game in an hour and a half. And I was like, damn, did I just like
Oh,
buy
really?
something that I could beat really? Yeah, yeah.
I think I
But
sent you
then I was
something
reading.
like just like the world is massive. Like someone was
No,
playing
I
it,
didn't see that.
and then like on TikTok,
Massive world.
like the world,
Oh, okay. I didn't
like she
check
was just
TikTok
zooming
yet.
out on the map, and it's like huge or something. I don't know anything about the game
Okay.
really too much. I just seeing people saying like they want to play the game or they're playing
Masterpiece,
the
right?
game
10 out
or
of 10.
or making like the
But
because you can I think you can build things I guess or something like that is there.
no. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know about that.
So I don't know anything about the game really because I'm not really into Zelda, but
Yeah.
there's huge
Yeah,
people that
yeah.
are.
It's like Nintendo. Like, who would have thought Nintendo? But it got like the 10 out of 10
Oh
masterpiece like ratings. So you're like,
yeah.
okay,
I
like how good
think
is this game?
right. A lot of the Zeldas had. I've never played Zelda, so that's I've no
Oh,
haven't.
really?
Yeah,
Ever?
never ever. Yeah. So
Oh, it's
that's why I don't really have any
oh,
any.
okay, okay. Yeah. One of my first like open world games was Zelda, and I was just like blown away. But I didn't want to stick to Nintendo. It's like, PlayStation's way better, right? Like who buys Nintendo? Remember, it was like N64. That's where I first played Zelda, and I was like, this game's amazing, but I don't
Mhm.
want to like I don't want to support Nintendo because it's like it seems like
Right.
for kids, right? But the fact that this got like a 10 out of 10, I was like, oh, I gotta play it. But I think it's supposed to be a remake, right? It's
Yeah,
like
it's a
Breath
remake.
of the Wild.
I think I heard it's the map is the same as Breath of the Wild, or maybe bigger from. Yeah.
Okay, or like a reboot or something like that.
Uh,
It's supposed like
Maybe
when
I don't
in
know
the
too
video I
much.
saw,
Yeah. Okay.
the video I saw, they're like people were thinking, oh, it's just gonna be a slight upgrade from Breath of the Wild, but it's a whole new game essentially. And I was
Hmm.
like,
Okay.
so
But it's a total
so
different
like
title, though,
maybe the
right?
story. No, but I think it's like they just titled it different to like differentiate the two instead of being like Breath of the Wild HD. You know what I mean? Like they just gave it a whole new
I guess
name.
that would cause less of sales. It feels like it's
Yeah,
a new game right
exactly,
now.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because Breath of the Wild came out with the Switch, or like very early on, and that was
Hmm.
like their main seller.
Hmm.
So then they like revamped it, but that one got like a 10 out of 10 too. I was like waiting to see
Well,
what the
it
rating was
should get
because I
10
was
out of
like,
10, right? If it's the same game or a similar game.
oh yeah, yeah, true, true, true. True. Oh no, because people could have been like, oh, it's just a remake by the original.
Hmm.
You know, if it wasn't
True.
that great, but yeah, but I haven't played it yet though. That's the thing. I'm like waiting for the um the plane ride to
Right.
like kick in.
Okay.
Because like if I play it now, I'm like, oh, I just like beat the game. What's the point, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's. I think you could speed run it in an hour and a half. But there was a guy that I was like an IGN person. He had spent 80 hours in the game and he only finished 50% because he wants to do 100% of the game.
Right.
Like there's like side quests and stuff. I
Mhm.
think if you play the main storyline, you can run through it in an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot
Yeah.
of the same. I guess he's talking about like a story. If you run through the story, it'll be done in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that
Like
makes
yeah,
sense in
you can
general.
speed
Like
run it.
even with God of War, it's like you could do the story very quickly, but
Mm.
I was spending more time
There's
on
like
it
side
and
maps.
doing other things. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. I'm really excited to see what it looks like going from like the handheld to the TV. That seems so innovative to me. That you just like plug it in.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the Pokemon game too, but I don't really know. Like my cousin was talking about it, like how you can customize your character now. Like you can create your own character and then you're like a Pokemon trainer and you see the Pokemon like running through the world. It's not like like the old game you're
Yeah.
like walking in the grass and then
And
you're
just
like
randomly
random
pops up.
battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one you see them in the distance and you like run up and you can like attack them and stuff.
Mm.
But I don't know, it's Pokemon though. It's like
Well, it
it's like
depends. Yeah. I mean,
you know,
if Zelda uses up a lot of your time, you don't really need that right now. I'd say.
totally.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know, Zelda's not even the main character's name.
Yeah, I think she's
Like,
Link,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Link. Yeah. When I first played it in N64, I was like, wait, they're calling him Link. I thought it was Zelda, but Zelda's
Zelda's
like
the
the
princess
princess or
or
something like
something.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, cool. Yeah, stoked for that. One thing I did. Anything else about Zelda before I jump into like some crazy health stuff, which I thought was so fascinating.
No, I think that's all I know so far. What's going on with that?
All right,
Yeah.
cool. Hopefully it's good. The graphics are kind of iffy for me. I was like, I don't
Well,
know if
I
this is
wonder if it's like as a handheld, it probably is like the distance
translates
and the
well.
yeah, the size of the screen
Yeah.
maybe fine. Yeah.
Or maybe I'll like tell myself it's like polygons. Because it's not going to be like realistic like God of War. It's like
Yeah, they're not
old
going for
school
that
Final
though.
Fantasy
But yeah,
7.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so remember how okay, actually no, I'll talk about allergies first because this was interesting. So my whole life growing up, I thought I couldn't breathe out of my nose. I thought I broke it as a kid.
Okay.
Okay. So I should breathe out of my mouth. And I noticed that like, there are some times when I can breathe through my nose, but then I can't. So I'm like, what's going on here? Turns out I've had allergies my whole life, and I just figured out allergy medication. So if you just take allergy medication, it like opens up your sinuses, and like I could totally breathe normally. Like right now, it's like worse than usual. I took it earlier. I just needed to kick in, but it's weird. It's like in these environments, you don't know what's affecting you. You know what I mean? Like you think it's like a body thing, and you're like, oh, I'm just like defective in this way, but you never know what one thing is affecting all other things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So that premise, that whole idea, leads me into the blood pressure thing. So remember when I got my shot, and I was like, they're like, oh, your blood pressure's like 140 over like whatever, and they're like, oh, it's so high. I was like, no, I'm just scared. And then we tested it later, and then it was still 140. And then Tara was like, oh, it's because, like, if you go through a traumatic event, maybe your body hasn't normalized, so we'll check it a week later. So a week later from that, we checked it. Actually, it was like after coming back from Alberta, and it was actually way worse. It was like 148. And I was like, oh, crap, maybe I just have high blood pressure. So then I was like, but I'm very athletic, so how does this work? How does blood pressure work? Turns out, those espressos, remember I was like, I just need like one or two a day?
Oh, yeah.
Right, remember I was like, oh, I just need like 1 cup, I'm good. 2 cups maybe, like espressos. I get why, Europeans drink espressos. Turns out I was drinking per cup about 10 espressos per cup.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but I knew it though. That's the crazy part. So like,
okay.
No, but I didn't want to admit it. So I went to Starbucks one time and I was like, oh, can I get an espresso? And they gave me the tiniest thing. I was like, what the hell is this? Like the one I have in my home's like so huge.
Oh, okay,
right.
Okay.
And then I was like, I wonder if I'm drinking too much espresso. So then with the blood pressure, I'm like, okay, because like Tara's like, oh, maybe your like diet's really bad or like whatever. We need to figure this out. Maybe something's wrong with you. And then I was like, I think it's the espresso. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I saw the amount that was there when I bought one, and then the amount in the cup, it looks like proportionately like 10 espressos per cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I cut that out. So it went from 148. We checked it the next day. It went down to 140. Checked it the second day. This is like 3 days ago. I didn't check today though. 2 days later, after no espressos, I just stuck to like one coffee, 130. So it was the espressos.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it went from like an average range is 120 over 80. When I checked it, it was 148.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, if I went to the hospital for that or they saw that, they would give me blood pressure medication.
Right.
Because they're like, this is too high, But isn't that weird? It's like one thing could affect your whole system. You don't know what one thing you're doing.
True. Yeah,
that's like, isn't that wild?
That's
you're
why,
like this tandem effect.
That's why, like when you're figuring out something, you have to only remove one thing at a time and then figure that out. Is this the one? If not, okay, you can re-add it to your diet or something.
Yeah, it's like elimination diet or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. And then what was crazy too is like when I was drinking it, the caffeine's weirdly addictive, not because your like body gets used to it in like an addiction kind of way, like, oh, I'm like getting withdrawal, because I didn't have any withdrawal, but it's like you habituate to that amount of caffeine. So that 1 cup turned into 2 cups. So that's 20 espressos. And I started adding Monster on top of that because like, it's not working anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Isn't that interesting? So I was drinking like 20 cups of espresso plus Monster. And that explains why my blood pressure was so high. And then cutting it out, right? Like it's like getting back to normal.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure in like a week it'll be back to 120, but we figured out what the thing was. You know, it just like makes me think of because you know, like doctors, like medical doctors are very like like you're already at the problem. We need to fix it. You know, like what's the solution? But then like naturopathic doctors like preventative. You know, so like for Tara, her mindset wasn't let's jump to medication, let's see what we can affect, you know? But then it makes you wonder like what other things that we're doing that we don't know we're doing that are causing unintended consequences to our health. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I hadn't even thought about like the espresso thing, I would have just been like, oh, okay, it's normal, and then just take blood pressure medication, and then like if you had just fixed that one thing, you would have fixed that whole series of things. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Our bodies are like such like a weird machine. You know, like a car, you put the gasoline in, and like if it's the wrong gas, it can like affect the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. That was just tripping me out. But anyways, we figured it out. But isn't that weird? It's like went from like 1 cup of that to 2 cups of that to espresso, and it didn't even feel like. And then I went to coffee, and I was like, I feel the exact same, like the exact amount. Because they were like, my sister and Tara were like, "Are you getting the jitters? Are you like caffeine deprived?" I'm like, "No, I feel like normal." But my brain had told me that, you know, like it's the equivalent or something. You know what I mean? It's like it habituated so quickly.
Yeah, that's probably what. Yeah.
To that sensation, you know? Because I like gave that same cup to like my sister and your brother, and they're like, "How can you drink this so strong?" And like I'm so awake. But I didn't put two and two together. I was like, "Oh wait." Like,
if it happens
cups,
slowly though, right? This is the thing. I think it's more like a person that doesn't drink coffee a lot will see that.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Versus someone that drinks coffee. But it's like I don't think you went from 1 to 2 in like the next day. It took some time to go to 2.
Yeah, it was like
gradual,
like months.
Yeah. This is
That's
the thing. Yeah. You won't see the difference when you do that way.
Yeah, wild, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, also at the same time, it's like productivity over, like, how much do we place in health? Like, actually, I want to hear your opinion on this.
It depends on that. Yeah, it depends.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's
quality
a personal,
of life.
Yeah. Where do you?
I want to wake up. So, and then I was like considering, not that I would do it; it's illegal. But I was like, I wonder what cocaine would feel like.
That's
you know what I mean?
Like, no, but right? in that world, right? We know that Wall Street world, they do that.
That's what I mean. If you're like, oh, this espresso's not working anymore, let me just like get some coke. And like, oh, it's working well, and you need like longer and longer lines. You know, that's you can see how that is the snowball effect over time.
Sure. Yeah.
Of like getting more and more addicted to like substance or like needing a stronger high, like heroin. When they say you take the first one and it'll never be the same, so you're always chasing the dragon. You know, like getting more and more heroin until you like OD.
Yeah.
Trippy. Anyways, okay. So, have you ever been to Alberta, Rockies?
No, I haven't been to Alberta.
Okay, this is so trippy. When you see like there's something about the majesty of nature, because we're like in the city, right? The only time we'd ever really go into like the forest is like Twin Rivers in Port Union.
Sure.
You know, and like when we see it, we're like, oh, like the trees are so big, right? And like we feel so small. But in the Rockies are so insanely magnificent that you're kind of like, nature doesn't care about me. You know what I'm saying? Like we build such a weird, like I don't know, viewpoint on our lives that we're so important. But then when you're face to face with something so majestic, like giant mountains or like oceans, it's like it's a totally different mindset. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we almost forget how, I don't know, like small we are in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it's true. Yeah, most people don't live around those things, right? Or even on
Yeah.
islands, right? Most people don't. We're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
in very flat land kind of areas.
Right, right, right. And like if you see and even if you're like in Vancouver and there is a mountain, it's like one mountain. But when if you see like the Rockies, it's like, oh no, this is like a sea of mountains.
Yeah,
Like you feel so small, you
yeah.
know? And what tripped me out is like some people live in the Rockies who I like work with like remotely, and I'm very go go go, like because we live in the city, right? But then visiting it, I'm like, oh, I get why you guys are slower,
Yeah.
because you're like, who cares, bro? Like, you know, like why is this guy messaging me out Slack to like get stuff done? I'm like, you know, the Rockies are right there, like we're so insignificant.
Hmm.
You know, it, like gives you like perspective,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I wonder like, well, they say this about like churches too. They try and build them so grand so that you feel like the presence of God in them. You're like, oh,
Oh
this is
yeah.
such
Yeah. Yeah.
a, you
That's
know what I'm
true.
saying?
Yeah.
Right. And then it makes you wonder like, I really want to visit like India, the Himalayas. Yeah, you were saying?
No, no. I mean, like talking about the temples or churches.
Yeah.
That's how they do it, right? They're in their view of God or representation to God. They make some vast or huge buildings, and these things
Yeah.
give the ambiance when you go into them, right? So
Yeah.
there is
Yeah.
something to it. Yeah.
Right. Right. And you're trying to elicit that exact same feeling. It's called
Honest.
awe. Like, yeah, honest. Yeah. 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 It's, what do you call it? I read this article before. I think we talked about it. It's like the science of awe.
Mm-hmm.
And how they're saying that like these awe experiences are like actually spiritual experiences that
Mm-hmm.
like you feel the presence of God, and
Yeah.
it's like very psychedelic, like life changing, you know. And I feel like the Rockies was one of those. And then I was talking to
That's because that's the thing I was just thinking
uh,
about. Like add to that, like because we're like standing right, you're looking at it, you can see the horizon and see the mountains, but like
mm,
you can do it at where we're at too. You just have to look up into the night sky, right? Like, but that we don't do that. That's not
facts,
natural to us.
facts. Yeah, yeah, no, no, but true. But like also at the same time, you can hardly see the sky because of like the light
Yeah,
pollution. It
true,
just looks
true.
like black,
Yeah,
right?
now, yeah, yeah.
But then, right? But then if you go into like the forest and you see like the stars, you're like, whoa, this is
There's a lot more.
really,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. And that's probably why they were so connected to spirituality back then, like those hunter gatherers and like people in like different countries where there's no real cities,
Hmm.
you know? Like that was the thing about like travel. It's like because of COVID, we couldn't really travel. But then leaving again, even though it was just Canada, it was like, oh, people live totally different
Yeah.
than like just seeing the mountains. I was like, oh, I just need to chill on you guys on Slack because like I don't need to like me messaging you. Like I know what you're seeing now, so it's
Right.
like, why do I need to
I think,
push
but
my city view?
right, right. But that's
Yeah.
the thing with remote work, right? We're not in the if you're all in going to the same building, we're all experiencing the same thing, right? If
Right.
we're living differently, if working from other parts of the world, right? We don't know their experience,
Yeah.
what they see out their
Yes.
window, right?
Right. 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 Totally. Totally. And if you see something so like magnificent, like the
Hmm.
Rockies, it's like it really changes your perspective. Like your location really changes your perspective on the world. We just don't think about it. And you're right. It's like
But I
it's an
think
unintended.
I wonder
Yeah.
if also like we do get habituated to it too, though, right? At certain point, because we're coming from a city, right? It's gonna
Oh, you think
be.
that they're used to the
I think
Rockies? They're like, oh, yeah.
eventually, our minds do end up trying to just normalize things, right?
Yeah. Okay. You know, I see. Yeah, I get what you mean, but I feel like
I
it's
think it
like,
depends on like how you're living too. Maybe that adds to it, right? If it's too easy of a living, like access is there, right? Or like you have to drive far to get things, then like that adds to it's a different experience, right?
yeah, you're talking about cities.
Yeah, it's like cities to compare to that. Like in I don't know what they call it, like towns, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But also it's the layout. So the layout is more um it's like such a tiny town. I was like, I would never want to live there.
Mm-hmm.
Like first off, because there's nothing to do. Well, there's a lot to do, but like there's no tech, there's no like
Yeah.
diversity. Like I can't just go to like a restaurant or whatever. Like we went to all the best restaurants there, and it's like, okay, what are you gonna do now? There's like five. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like so like I feel like the simplicity too, even though you could habituate to your surroundings, it's also how it was all set up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we have, like the reason why I'm so go 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 is there's so much bombardment of stimuli in a city, right? But over there, it's like very few stimuluses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that also has to play. Like it's like subconscious. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
like,
Yeah.
like you might habituate to it, but the surroundings going to still make you program you in a specific way. You know, they're not thinking about like Yeezys down there. They're not thinking about like
Right.
Gucci bags.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two ways, right? I think there are a lot of people that from towns or from those areas that want to go to the city because there's something about
Right.
the city too,
Yeah.
right? But then the people in the city want to go see that stuff or should go see that stuff, I would say.
For sure.
Right. It's
Yeah,
kind of like,
for sure.
we'll just change spots for a couple days and get the experience.
Right. But the most fascinating ones are the ones that lived in cities, because some of them are from Ontario. The people that moved out there and became instructors, they are from Ontario, and then they moved there when they saw it. They're like,
Okay.
oh, there's something calling me to this location. There's something like, I don't know, like more
I can see that.
spiritual
Yeah,
over there.
sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You can have that kind of, I mean, it could be spiritual, like it's up to that individual, right? But it's like it gives you like like not a trauma experience. It gives you like that visceral experience. It's like
it's like so shocking.
Yeah, it's a shock. Yeah, it's a shock thing.
Yeah, and even like so we drove from when I first drove in, it was such a shock. I was like, it's so massive. Like
yeah.
it's so massive.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even I was like, oh, you think that's like the size of the CN Tower to Taro as we were driving? And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, you really think that this is because it's like 4 CN Towers on top of one another. It's like insanely massive, the mountains, right? So I was getting that shock, but we left to go to Calgary, like a different part of Calgary, and then we were in the city, and then even driving back, it's like you always get that shock that you're saying. You know, like I guess if you live in it, sure, but if you leave just for a bit and you come back, you
course, yeah.
Even if it was like 4 hours that we were gone, we came back, it was just like, oh right, this thing is so massive. And then driving it like freaked me out. Because I've been to like a lot of mountainous areas like Peru, like I saw Machu Picchu, which is like very high up. But like that was one small area. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that mountain was okay, let's go to that mountain. Right. But this is like mountains of like as you're driving, you drive like 3 hours and it's like it's
one of the, I don't know if it's one of the longest, but it's probably the longest stretch of mountains, the Rocky Mountains, because it goes all into the US, right, to California. It'll get smaller and smaller, but it goes all the way down there. It's part of the two tectonic plates, right, like clashing together.
Really? Okay.
That's how mountains are made, right?
Okay, so that's interesting that you say that. So I have a new theory. Well, not a new theory. It's like somebody else's theory, but they're saying with the asteroid impact that it could have created insane waves that created these things that look like mountains. But if you go to a higher viewpoint, it's actually like waves on a beach, like ripples in the sand, you know? And that's how they think a lot of these mountainous structures got made. And that's like why every religious text has like a giant flood associated with it. And like Atlantis was destroyed by a giant flood, you know? So what if these things were not actually mountains? They're like, it's not two tectonic plates. What if it was like an actual wave that crushed everything? Because you could see it's like...
Right. But I think
how is it so perfectly...
I wonder... but
how could you drive through it?
Right. But mountains are... like the ones in the Himalayas, they're growing.
Okay. So maybe some parts, maybe it's like a combination of things. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know how. Like,
so far, the current understanding is tectonic plates, right, for the mountains.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So I don't know if the Rockies are growing or not. I haven't read that, but yeah.
But the Himalayas are growing.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They're getting taller. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. One thing that was like fascinating too is like who decided to drive first and then pave the road? Like what explorers like, hey, we're gonna go over here. You know what I'm saying? Like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you would have. Like,
But
how do you know it's gonna
that's
actually reach an
I
endpoint?
understand that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that this is what humans do, right? Like, why else we
Right. Yeah.
conquer the
Yeah.
rest of the planet? We would have just stayed
Yes.
in Africa.
Right. As we were driving through, I'm like, who would have thought to go up this mountain and like build a road here?
Hmm.
But you're right. It's just a human thing to just keep exploring. Like, let's just add more roads, add more roads.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, what was
yeah, like
really?
we going to
Yeah.
space is the same thing.
Yeah, fair, fair, fair. And then we're going to see like space docking stations. But like, who would have thought to build space docking
Yeah,
stations? Like, yeah,
yeah.
they just keep growing.
Who wants to be the crazy first one to go to the moon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Facts, facts, facts. Yeah. Oh, what's really weird too is like when you're on those mountains, there's no reception and no gas station. So we learned that the hard way.
oh wow,
We
okay.
we like had we had this like route that we were following. This like in our first day, and we were at half gas. And then we realized, like, as it was getting lower and lower, we're like, we actually don't know how far this is. We couldn't get reception. We
Oh
don't know
shit.
how many more. Yeah, it's crazy. And then
Mm.
when we came back, I was telling my mom about it because she lived there before. And she's like, yeah, they have this rule where if you're at half tank, you always fill up. And I was like,
Okay.
we learned that the hard way because, like, we luckily found a road when we were about to run out. And then we found a gas station. We filled up. We're like, from now on, just like if it gets to half, we're filling all the way up,
Right.
you know? But like that was known for them. But like, what do you do if you run out of gas there on
Oh,
a
you just,
mountain with
no signal.
no signal, bro? That's what was
Mm,
freaky.
I don't.
Like we could
I
wait for
don't
another
know.
car. Like you wait for another car, but then do you siphon gas off the other car?
You
Like
could
how's that
try. Yeah,
work?
that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, wild. But again, so like all those things adding up to it's like we are so like nature's so much more vast than what we have built up in cities. Like I really thought like, oh, cities are, you know,
Well,
this
that's
is
why we come to
magnificent. Like
cities because it's in that kind of scenario, right? It's much more. It's a safer space in that sense. I'd say.
safer. Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. You know what they started doing actually in on the roads for like most of it is they put fences on like right on the highway. So it almost felt like you were in a zoo,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because like you could see the animals coming up to the fence, but they couldn't like run on the highway,
Right. Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
Oh, what's crazy too is if you drive at night, there's no lights. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
we could just die. Like there's no you know, like when
Streetlights.
you're on a
Yeah.
highway,
Streetlights.
yeah. So you're
Yeah.
like, how are
No,
people
we
gonna
get
do
that here
this
too.
at
I
night?
mean, there are portions here too, right? If you go on, like, I live near Reeser Road. That'd be my way to go to my parents. There's no lights on that road.
Yeah. All right, totally, totally, totally. But it's flat. So it's like, okay, if I fall off,
True.
I'm like,
That's
whatever.
true.
But this amount, I was like, even on
Mm.
the daytime, I was like freaking out because I'm like, oh, if we move too quickly in this direction, we're driving off the cliff.
Yeah.
Actually, what's freaky too is you see the barricades are broken on some parts. You're like, oh,
Oh well.
somebody already like smashed this. But that made you feel good because you're like, okay, the barricade can hold the car. Then it's not like it's just gonna break through and then you're gonna go flying.
Well, yeah. That's what they're designed for. But it depends on
Hopefully.
the speed that you're going at. I think.
I know, crazy. See, like, and so when I was going through like Machu Picchu, Peru's the craziest because there's no guardrail and it's just a drop. And the taxi drivers that we'd always get, they would gun it because they're so used to it. So like whatever.
Mm.
But for me, I was freaking out. Right, my body was in like a crazy fight or flight state. And then going to the Rockies, it's like the exact same sensation. But imagine always having that like reverence for like fear of
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
die,
Right,
you know,
right,
and
right.
your body's
But it's
always in
not
like a panic mode.
right, right. But it's not like even those areas. You're probably maybe I don't know. Was it fenced out everywhere so not even like deer could get onto the road?
No, 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 no. That was just near the city, and then it stopped.
Oh, okay.
Like,
So there's
like
probably
deer
like
can't get on the road.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, okay. Like that could also
like,
happen too, especially on the dark
yeah,
nights.
in the dark. Yeah, that's why we were like, no driving at night because this
Mm.
could end really badly. But the bear, I don't know if you saw
Yeah, I saw the picture. Yeah,
the bear I sent.
or the video.
Right, so that bear was just on the side of the road, just chilling. He's like walking
Mm.
through. Yeah, so it's like what is this zoo? It almost felt like a zoo. So like a you know African lion safari.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You see them like coming up to your car and stuff. It was almost like that. But then you're like, how many monsters live in this thing?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like monsters,
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
not like not like a joke. Like these things could literally kill me.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, you only saw is black bear, right? It was a black bear.
Yeah, black bear, not a
Mm.
grizzly. So we Googled how many bears because we were like, oh, I wonder if we're gonna see bear. Guess how many bears are in that area or the Rockies that we were in?
What, like 500? I don't know.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, maybe 1,000, 2,000, something like that. 150 bears.
Oh.
So how do we see that one bear? Like, what? I was like, these stats are wrong, bro. There's no way. We just saw two
Well,
bears.
these are like probably yeah. You're not gonna go and count, right? So you're just going on
Right.
certain statistics, but it won't be 100% accurate, I'm sure. But I think it depends on why they're on the road and stuff, right? Just easier to walk through. There's nothing
Yeah,
to.
true. Maybe, yeah, yeah.
There's things like
No
there's
trees.
no. Yeah, yeah. It's easier to see what's ahead of you.
Oh, so they're like attracted to the road, is what
You
you're
know,
thinking.
yeah, there could be that too because if they figure that out, right? It's all about safety. They also work in
Mm,
that world too, right?
true, true, true. Yeah, true. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
They're
So
like, oh, this seems like I can get a clear view of what's going on.
yeah.
Yeah, true. What's weird is like when so the first black bear that we saw, it like ran away. It was scared. But then the second one that we saw, it's like it had seen cars before
Yeah,
because
it
it didn't
depends on
care about us.
the
It's like,
yeah, it depends on if someone fed it or someone did something, right?
oh, true, true,
Right.
true, true.
So it's based on their own experiences. So most of the bears probably would run away because that's generally the
Right,
outcome.
right, right, right.
But if
But I was thinking too, like, how fast do you think it could run at you? Like really
I
fast? Like,
don't,
come on.
yeah, there's probably information on the internet for that. I don't know.
Because I
I'm sure
got
it's
out
faster
and I
than
was
us,
like,
though.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But like, how fast? Like, is it like? Because I was like getting closer to it, and then Tara's like, "Get back in the car," and I was like,
Okay.
"How fast can this thing run, though? Like, there's no way." But maybe it was super, like
Well, it
that could have
depends.
been pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah. If close enough to the car, you probably like the short burst
Yeah,
versus long distance. I don't.
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Like, I'm sure I can make it into the car before this bear like charged at
But
me.
most outcomes is not about like attacking. They only attack if they are felt cornered,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't like running at it with a
Yeah,
weapon or anything. I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
trying to like get a shot. Yeah. That's wild. The other thing was like the mountain goats. Actually, the thing that I was really looking for and I was like kind of afraid of was mountain lions. Okay, so you heard of mountain lions. You know what's weird? The two names we give things. So mountain lion is a cougar,
Mm-hmm.
but
Is
I know what a cougar is. Like no, they're it's just interchangeable names. So like I've heard of a cougar, but I didn't know they were also called mountain lions. So like, because Joe Rogan talks about mountain lions, he's like, oh, they're all over like the Rockies and stuff. So I was like, let's Google like mountain lions because I want to see. Like I was thinking it would look like a lion, just
oh
like on the rock, like with a mane or something,
no.
something different. But it's just a cougar, and you're like, okay, why didn't you just call it a cougar?
Well, it's
Like why do
specific to the
they?
area, right? There's different kinds of cougars, I guess you can say.
All right, so with that, we were at a restaurant yesterday, and it was a fancy restaurant, and it was like um a cornet like a no Ontario hen. I was like, oh, let me get the hen because it sounds so cool. Like, what's a hen? And she was like, that's chicken.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know that. I was like, oh, I
What?
thought it was like some sort of
Well, what's a
like
rooster?
offshoot of hen. I don't know.
It's a
Like,
male version.
is it male chicken?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. So it's like pork, pig, cow, beef. It's like
Yeah. We
what are
have
you gonna use?
yeah, like the edible versions names of them. I
Right. Yeah. And if you want to sound like really fancy, you call it a hen instead of chicken.
guess.
Because if it said chicken, I'd be like, ah, pass on the chicken. But when I saw hen, I was like, well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
But same thing. Yeah. But anyways, the I think that you should definitely check it out if you are interested in like seeing that part of Canada. But you definitely need a car like for the Rockies.
Hmm.
Because like I know like some people like they'll like shuttle to different places, but I feel like if you're in like one place, it's like how do you see other things without a car?
No, I think in
Like
certain areas you need a car.
yeah,
They're not designed for transit or anything
yeah.
like that. Right.
I think you could probably get a bus to like Canmore and stuff, but yeah, you definitely like
But it's
cars
not
are
like
so
it's
versatile.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. In those areas, I'm sure it's like 90%, right?
Like car,
Or like 100% almost. Yeah, yeah. For
yeah,
vehicle, yeah, personal vehicle.
yeah. Have you heard of Turo?
Yes.
Turo the app? Oh, okay, cool. It's a new thing. We tried it. It's like the if you're listening, you don't know what it is. It's the Airbnb of cars.
Hmm.
So you just like rent someone else's car. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like surprisingly, yeah, it's like simple. You just like it's literally like an Airbnb. You just show up at the place, pick up the keys, and like drop it off when you're done with
Right.
like the same amount of gas. It's so interesting. Like these technological innovations are totally putting other things out of business. You know what I mean? Like rent a car, now you have Turo.
Yeah.
Taxi, now you have Uber and Lyft.
Hmm.
Like was it um hotel rooms, now you have Airbnbs.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And this is all like thanks to the internet that we're like restructuring things and like making them. I don't know. It's like you gain one thing, but you kind of kill another thing in doing that. You know.
Yeah, it's the new gig economy, right? That's part of that.
Oh yeah, gig economy. Yeah, yeah, totally.
That's what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Depends
yeah.
on how convenient some things are. I think that's where I feel it comes down to. Price points, I feel like
Mm,
Airbnbs it can be much more cheaper, but like then the convenience of how to
mm.
get to it and all that stuff too, right? So
Yeah, fair, fair, fair. I feel like the Lyft and Uber though, in terms of convenience, is so much better than like a taxi because you have the app and then like you could put the pin of where exactly you are, have them like show up.
yeah, and then
You
you
know.
know the route, how to get there, like too. Like you can see the
Yeah.
route.
Whereas before, yeah, like taxis, like they can overcharge you if you're gonna like
If it's safe and stuff like that,
if
it's
you
more
don't know.
safe and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, which one? The
I
taxi
feel
or
like the
the
Uber is more safe in that sense that you know where it's
hmm.
going, right? And then you
And
can
they get
leave.
like star ratings.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever try a Turo app?
Would I try? It depends on the convenient level of it, right? If I'm getting
Hmm.
it, like I'm sure there's none at an airport, right? An airport
The
generally has,
churros?
yeah,
Oh no, you can have them drop it off to you as well. That's an extra fee though.
yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. It's like there depends on the convenient level, right? Because you can
Yeah, true.
already like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
I'm sure there's enterprises like these are already set in places
yeah, yeah, yeah,
generally.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
inside the thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like enterprise too is like they're. I don't know. It's like it feels like a not just convenience, but also like a competition for pricing. Because like enterprise can get pretty expensive quickly. Because like $150 a day for your car or whatever,
It depends.
or
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
okay.
more.
Depends. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the yeah. I don't know. Just I feel now that as we're breaking back into travel, there's there's some new innovations that are making things more um not convenient, but like easier.
Hmm.
Because like even in Egypt right before the pandemic, there was Uber and Lyft there too. I'm excited to go to the Philippines because I'm like, can I rent a Turo car in like the Philippines or even data? That got better over time using um your own cellular data for like an international plan.
Hmm.
Because before it was like so expensive, but now it's like use your own plan for $12 a day.
Yeah,
Whereas before it's like you had to pay them
yeah.
such a huge
That's
amount
what
of
I did
money.
when I was in Monaco. So
You just use your data, right?
yeah, yeah. It
You like turn on your phone. Yeah.
was very easy.
Yeah. And then you don't even need maps. Like I was thinking as we were driving, if I didn't have my LTE data on, it's like, how would I know where I'm going?
Yeah,
Like the GPS, like
yeah,
we're
yeah.
so, it's like, oh, just turn like two lefts down and then turn on this street. It's like, what would you say? Whereas now it's just you just follow the GPS. So I'm wondering,
It
like,
depends.
what about third world
It
countries?
depends on how well developed the GPS is in a certain area. I feel like
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, yeah. Like when I go to the Philippines, I'm like, will this still hold up? Will
yeah.
my LTE still be fast?
Even in Monaco, it wasn't perfect because it's such a mountainous area where
Oh, okay,
things are
okay,
on
okay.
top of each other. It's like hard to tell which is
Oh, it's like
which.
the signals. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
I get
kind
what
of
you're saying.
becomes an issue.
Interesting. Yeah, see, this is the benefit of living in a city because you know at least the
Well, it's designed
services you
in a
can
very
get.
simple way, right? Very squared off,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, man, you also know like that the signal won't get interfered.
true,
Like
true.
in the
Right, right,
mountain
right,
area,
right.
you're like.
Yeah.
But one thing that was interesting is the in Canmore, or no, in the airport, they were having signs for Starlink.
Hmm.
Tara's like, "Oh, do you know
Yeah.
what the Starlink thing is?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like high speed internet through satellites and stuff." So that's pretty interesting. That now, like we were thinking, like those what are those lines that they put on in the suburbs?
Cable lines? You're talking about that?
Yeah, no, no, yeah, but what's the new one that they fiber
Oh, fiber
optics,
optics. Yeah.
right? And they had to build, they had to like dig up. Remember when they were doing it in our parents' area, and they
Hmm.
had to like dig up the ground and like put all the wiring in. But I was thinking, like, how do you do this in the mountains as well? Like, how do these, you know, because there are hotels in the middle of the mountain. How do you get good internet
Right.
with Starlink?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Which is Elon Musk, just
Speaking
so
of,
you know, it's SpaceX.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
people don't know
All right,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's doing so much. Yeah. Speaking of Elon Musk, we were talking about the new CEO of
Yes.
Twitter. You know, not really anything about her, right?
I don't know anything about her. Really
I
nothing.
saw something. I saw something on one of my feeds, but I was like, I don't know if I could trust this. Apparently, she worked for like the World Bank or something like that before. Do you see that?
No, I didn't see that. I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, so they're trying to like suggest that like this is another government takeover of, you know, like by her being put in place now, like the one world government is slowly moving in on everything because she's part of the World Bank before. So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like all these conspiracies, but I didn't know if I should trust that one when I saw it. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I was like turning to you, like hopefully you knew something about it. But you
No,
said
I
that
didn't see
she's
anything
not.
like that. Yeah. Well, at least so far.
But you said she's not the. She's like focusing on the business end or something.
Yeah, she's just on the business end
Yeah,
of it.
whereas he's
That's what
just
he
doing.
said. That's what he tweeted. Yeah. Elon tweeted.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see how that develops. You know how I thought that Twitter, or this is some insider information, but you know how I thought that Twitter was kind of like dying?
Hmm.
Like who uses Twitter, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
actually who uses Twitter?
I
Like,
use Twitter.
I don't
I
know.
mean, just for
No, no,
news.
you do, but for like as a business perspective, like who uses Twitter?
Hmm.
Like where can you market to for using Twitter? I don't know. But I do know the answer now, but I'm asking you like,
Like who markets on Twitter or like a
yeah, 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 like who's highly active on Twitter? Is it
well, it's
like what
in
would you think?
who's highly active. I don't know. It's in those
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
individuals, right? Like people.
Okay. Okay. But do you know any industries that are like super active on Twitter? Like, you know, like artists are very active on, like, if you're a tattoo artist, you're like, let me get on Instagram because I can show my
Um,
work. They're not like, oh, I'm just going to get on Twitter. Like, who's,
no, I don't know.
like, what industry? Yeah, right. I thought it was a dying platform too. Apparently, it's schools. So, like, all
Oh,
schools use Twitter and they like, because, you know, with Tara's like school thing. So they told her when she was like,
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Okay.
getting
No,
into
yeah,
schools,
that makes sense. Yeah.
you would never thought though, right? Like,
No,
what?
actually, yeah. Like
Was
even,
it- Oh, it's making sense. Like you
yeah,
get
I
it.
just remembered something too, where it's not just schools, but like there were certain companies that are like my dad was. I think he was like for customer support from I think Qatar Airways, but they didn't have any customer support. They had it on Twitter though.
No,
He just DM'd them. He
really.
DM'd them on Twitter, and they answered.
Wow, that's fascinating. So there are things that are using Twitter, but we just not like commonly known or
Hmm.
something. You
Yeah,
know? That's fine.
and like
Yeah.
also like if ever I'm checking for like there's an outage on internet or something or some issue, right? I go to
Yeah.
Twitter.
Oh,
All the
interesting.
information I
That's
do
not
find
new.
because it's like oh like when Crave wasn't working, like when I think Last of Us was out one time, and then
Yeah.
it's like a Twitter was because I think Crave's on Twitter too, and they put out a message, but like people were also messaging adding Crave, right? At like
Okay.
writing
Okay.
to at
Interesting.
Crave, so I know that it's not just me that's having an issue.
Okay. 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 So Twitter's more of like an information, like a
Hmm.
professional
I think it's
information resource.
information. Yeah, I feel like that. Yeah, I use it generally for that. If there's ever an issue, I check there. If there's other people having it, then I know there's an issue.
Right. Okay. Okay. So like, the only time I can think of doing is like TTC lines are down. You like
Yeah,
check
they do
Twitter
that.
to
Yeah.
see, you know. But like thinking about how like Tara for her business, like they're blowing up. Like one school will tweet. I was like, there's no way people are actually using this as a networking platform, right? But like one school will tweet them like doing a workshop, and then another school will like comment and be like, "Oh, how were they?" And then
Mm,
they were great, and then they'll sign up like Tara's company
right.
for other things, right? But you're like, so is it an so is it like a professional industry platform? You know what I'm saying? And if that's the case, then what is this like hate speech that everyone's talking about on Twitter? Like, who's putting out the hate speech then? If it's just like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
they kind of like um put Elon Musk in like a bad spot. It's like, oh, you took away like the arbiters of like hate speech, you know.
Hmm.
But if only like schools are using it, TTC's using it, like who's really
Most
using
people,
this
there
thing?
isn't
You know what
like,
I'm saying?
I mean, like you can say there's an increase in hate speech, but like I don't know what is. He used the word like hate speech, so that doesn't really mean anything. First of all,
But I would never expect like TTC to put out hate speech or
no, they're not.
like
Yeah,
maybe sure, maybe like randoms are putting it out, but like who cares about that random?
yeah, exactly.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like yeah, like most of the individual organizations are not doing that. They're not doing. Well, individual people are doing that. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm trying to
or
figure
may
because I was
do
just
that.
trying to figure out like yeah, from like a marketing perspective, I'm like, what would the utility be of Twitter? I've never understood it until I heard like her success on Twitter. It's like, oh, so it's like organizations.
Hmm.
But then that doesn't add up because then where's all this hate coming from that is allegedly increasing?
Well,
If
you can
only
have an
like
increase in
organizations
like
use it.
it's just. I think it's just like you're adding on a 10 people. They're adding more hate or phrases of hate, but
Or it's like, what's the percentage of hate? Like it's like two extra people. Oh, we can technically say it's increased
but it's
because like
they all follow whatever the guidelines are in like true free speech in that world, right? So it's like you can't instigate violence or things like that, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah, Michio Kaku was talking about that. He's like, we're all like free speech is great, but you can't yell fire in a movie theater
Hmm.
because like that would cause like some harm,
Panic, yeah.
you know. Yeah. Yeah, there's always like some limitation to that. Um Speaking of free speech, kind of. Um what time are we at before I get into this one? Just so I know.
52 minutes.
Oh wow. Oh, it's sped by. Um okay, so remember how I've been like pitching the vow to you guys?
Hmm.
Right? So we finished the vow. It's about Nexium. Have you heard of Nexium? I didn't know it's called Nexium until I got like more into it.
I don't.
Um,
I could probably in the articles I read about that. So.
okay. So, but I think we were a little too young to know about it because I
Hmm.
said we were talking to Tara's dad and we're like, oh yeah, Nexium, and he's like, oh yeah, I know that. It's like a really famous cult, and we're like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know. But I guess it was like
Yeah. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
weren't old enough to
But
really
right.
understand,
Right.
right? But they it's the Allison Mack girl who's like basically the number two. No, it's like the number three of like running the whole like sex ring and stuff. Like they brand themselves. Did I tell you this story? Like they
Yeah.
brand
Yeah. Yeah.
themselves with
Yeah. I
his
think you did.
initials and stuff. Okay, so we finished that one, And so there's a lot of celebrities associated with Nexium because what they did was they got celebrities, and the celebrity endorsement made people not think about what is going on. Like if the celebrities, if like Russell Crowe, because they showed Russell Crowe. If Russell Crowe's there, I'm sure Russell Crowe did his due diligence, so I don't need to do that. I could just trust that Nexium's a
Right,
good
right,
thing,
right.
right?
Yeah.
That's like what they used. And when you finish the doc, you see how like crazy the sex trafficking and like all the crazy scandal is on his side. But then we started another one, created by another person that left Nexium, and this one is more about, it shows more of the lessons of what Nexium was. Because I was like, okay, well, if they're like teaching good things in Nexium, like that's how you rope people in, right? You give them a little bit of like good truth, and then you like when they get higher and higher, they get too devoted, and then you can like
Right.
abuse them, right? So in this one, they have like, so to his like stupidness, he recorded everything. So every talk he ever did, it was recorded. Every lecture he ever did in front of like other people was recorded. Every phone call was recorded. He'd go on walks like Steve Jobs, and all of those are recorded.
Okay.
So he wanted to record everything, and it made me think like, are you a serial killers want to get caught?
Mm-hmm.
Like they leave evidence. Have you heard that before? All serial killers, they give you like a little bit of evidence so they can get caught because they love the thrill of potentially getting caught.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
It's like a psychological thing that I think it was like in Dahmer too. Like just all serial killers, they kind of do that. They kind of like let you know. It's like their calling card because they like to also show like, hey, this is me. So it's almost like in recording every single thing, you almost wanted to get like caught. So when they put him on trial, they just brought all the tapes out and they're like, tell us we're wrong. He literally had a like at the end of the vow, him and Allison Mack were on a walk at 6:30 in the morning, and they were talking about how to brand these girls. They're like, oh, he's like, I think you should tie them down and like bind their hands and feet, and then like a little pig, they'll be naked, and you just start burning them, like literally like that. And then Allison's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like Allison's like, that's a good idea. Yeah. And he's like, we should make it ritualistic. You should probably say something. Like, what would you say? And then she's like, well, I feel it's really good if you whisper something into my ear, and then I would repeat that thing out loud. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, you should also get them to ask to be branded. So like before they get branded, you should say, please brand me. It would be an honor to have this brand on my body. And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm like, bro, they put this in court. Like, what are you doing? This is, if you got in trouble, they should put this out there. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, how do you defend against that? Okay. So that's like, that part is crazy, but we knew that was crazy. Okay. So what were all of the celebrities listening to? That's what I was like, maybe he's saying something truthful. So this new doc that we're watching has like lectures, like videos of his lectures. Okay. Check this out. He's talking about how it's not wrong to rape a baby.
What? Okay.
I was like, wait a minute. Wait, you guys all heard this? And nobody was like, wait, this is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, does anybody think it's wrong to rape a baby? What if I made the baby really rapeable? No, these are his words, bro.
Right,
like, I'm not even paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And then you have celebrities listening to this thing, and nobody was like, that seems a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. Like, what would be going through your mind? Like, I'm wondering, should you be culpable for that? Because that's pretty obvious. Like,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
should you be held accountable for something that's so obviously? Because all of them were like, we were brainwashed. I'm like, dude, he's saying some weird things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Like, do you think they should be culpable? Do you think that like the brainwashing, like, you think they're actually brainwashed? I don't know.
I don't know. I would have to watch it myself to see what he's like what the full thing is he's trying to talk about. Right.
Yeah, I guess. But like, even if we were like I get where he's going with it. Like, we've had these talks about like good and evil, like what is really good and evil, like he brought up the same thing we talked about, where
Hmm.
a lot of philosophers in Greece had like boys,
Hmm.
you know, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, young boys, and they were like sleeping with them, like the sex slaves. But he's like, yeah, that's not wrong back then, so why is it wrong now? I get that point, but like, if we're in a modern society and people are talking about like raping rapeable babies, like that would even give me pause to
Hmm.
be like, no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if it's
like
just
wouldn't that
in
be
that,
alarming?
of course, yeah, in that context, yes.
Yeah. And then what was crazy is they were showing that as he was saying those things, he was actually raping like 12-year-old kids.
Oh, okay,
So he was saying it in order to like
for
justify,
himself. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So in case anybody found out, they're like, well, you said,
Mm.
it's wild. The hustle is too real. So like he has this thing where he would also kiss you on the lips, like everyone, like a woman or a man, like
That's
just like as a hello. It's like hello,
right.
kiss you on the lips, right?
Okay.
Goodbye, kiss you on the lips, right? And he tried to like normalize it. And this person in the new documentary we're watching, she was like really in the cult. And then she was saying that when she first saw it, she's like, oh, that's kind of weird. So she asked somebody like, why are we all kissing on the lips? And they were like, oh yeah, he's like a monk, he's celibate. So like this may look weird, but there's no sexual intention around it. So it's like warning bells, like I don't know,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
kind of weird. Like there's so many things that led up to this. When I watched the first doc, they never showed any of this stuff, like the lessons, the teaching, what went on. So I was like, okay, maybe he was really giving you truth. But then when you watch this new doc where it's like they're talking about the lessons and showing you with the behind the scenes, you're kind of like, did nobody think this was kind of weird?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure there
And oh, what's
was,
crazy?
right?
Yeah,
I'm sure there were. I'm
they let
sure
it
there were.
go, and there's like,
Depends on those individuals, right? If this is going to help you get ahead in your acting career, I don't know. All right.
that was the promise. That was the
See, this
promise.
is the thing.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like, and especially, I mean, and you think about like actors, if they're early on, it's like it's you're in desperate need.
vulnerable. Totally, exactly. And that's what I realized from this thing. Seeing the way they got so many high list actors into Nexium, it also made me think about like Scientology,
Yeah, I was
like
about to say
Tom
that too.
Cruise
This is
there.
reminding me of time
Yeah,
Scientology. Yeah.
yeah. Like, but then it made me think of what Joe Rogan said is when he lived in LA, he's like actors are the most insecure people
Hmm.
because they're all like fighting for their job. They're always being rejected. It's like very like soul crushing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it makes sense that they would fall into these traps because they're like, what can I do to get ahead? What can I do to advance my career? Like even it was like
Because the
Kristen Crook
chances
was
of
there
the chances of um like
making it.
making it is very slim, right? So
Yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
use whatever opportunities you can to kind of make it. So
Facts. Yeah, true. That's what they sold in the new documentary. They're like, well, if you do this like intensive course, you're going to be surrounded by like A-list people. That's going to be great for, your networking.
exactly. So these are the things
Right.
that they will let go of certain things, or they'll be blind to certain things, whatever he's saying,
True.
just to get to that point, right? They don't actually believe in any of the things that he's saying. It's just more like,
Right.
oh, I want to get to that point where I can meet those A-lists to get the networking, so I can actually get into the movie business or whatever, right? So,
Right. Yeah. Facts. Yeah. The main guy, like the second in command, not second in command, like the main devotee, he was the director for What the Bleep. You remember What the Bleep?
I think so.
Like
Yeah.
it's like a famous documentary, and like he was the director for that, and then he started filming the Nexium leader because the Nexium leader wanted to create a documentary as well.
Hmm.
But like, so this guy, not only was he like filming everything, but he also ran his own center. And in the first documentary we saw, where there was no lessons, there's no behind the scenes, you're like, you feel for him. You're like, okay, yeah, you just believed in the lessons and like the teachings and you want to spread good word, right? But then in this new documentary, they break down like the marketing aspect of it. And he was getting, so it's like a, pyramid scheme, like,
Hmm.
I sign up somebody under me, so I get some of their money.
Right.
And then like the people they sign up, I get some of their money. So all the money's trickling up to me. So that happened to him. So like he was getting so much money out of this thing. So it's like, did you really believe in the teachings, or were you like, oh, this is a lot of money?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like the first documentary painted it out to be like altruistic, but then when you find out how much money people are making, you're like, is none of this clicking here? Like it's a pyramid scheme. He's talking about raping babies. Like, you know, it's
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just wonder when the mind goes, wait, hold on. Before you like, because the whole first documentary, they're like defending it. Oh, I was brainwashed. I was like, I didn't really know what was going on. But then when you hear about like all this other stuff, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
was none of it clicking? Your bank account wasn't making you want to stay. You're ignoring the fact that he's talking about raping babies. Like what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kissing everyone. They're telling, everyone he's like a monk. It's like, but then you find out he's like sleeping with a bunch of people. And when you find out he's sleeping with a bunch of people, didn't that contradict the monkness? Like there's a limit of cognitive dissonance, right? You want to rationalize all of the negativity away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like, when do you, where do you draw the line in the
Mm-hmm.
mind? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you depend. I don't know. Whoever it is. We may like do like, I think it's like actual like memory loss or memory lapse kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. They like deleted it from their mind. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, it didn't happen
Mm-hmm.
because they're only looking at the good thing.
Mm-hmm. That could happen when you're in
Yeah,
in certain things
yeah,
too.
true. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, it could have been like to that degree as well. Yeah, there's another thing that he.
But it tells you it's very interesting how two different documentaries are showing you whole different things.
Totally. Yeah, facts. Because the first
So
one was like
yeah, but it's like
making him out to be a monster,
right. That's why
and
like
everyone's a victim.
that's why it's very difficult. Like how much do I trust a documentary? Like even
Facts. Yeah, that's
how
true.
you tell your story, that all depends on that, right? Like
Yeah,
there
true.
was a
Yeah.
huge thing against, remember, Michael Jackson's thing. Then there was an attack
Oh yeah,
on
yeah,
that opposite direction because none of these stories were true or these are made up.
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah,
so it's like
yeah.
one of them had it, like the Neverland one was like
Oh yeah, yeah.
very
That was gnarly. I
believable,
watched that
right?
one.
Let's say it's very
Yeah, yeah.
believable, but then there are a reaction to that, or like, no, these are certain areas of the story is not true, or
Right, right,
not the
right, right,
correct
right.
way it was actually explained. But it was done. It all depends on how the documentary was
Yeah,
presented.
that's true. Like the storytelling aspect of it is
Hmm.
like so important because that's what makes it believable in our minds, and that's all we can really trust. Is like, I'm not going to look more into this.
Yeah,
I'm just going to watch the
because it's not like,
documentary.
if you think about it, right? We're only going to pull out things that are going to keep us our
Sensationalized.
attention
Yeah,
to the story that we're
yeah,
watching, right? So if every, like, this was day one of his thing, this was day two, no one's watching that, right? Because it might be very
yeah, yeah,
boring.
yeah. Facts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. True. Yeah, you're taking only the scandalous things to keep our attention. That's yeah. You're right. You're right
That's
because
why like you
because
have
like
to, like, that's why it goes, when it goes to court, that's where all the
mm,
actual information is coming out.
see in the first documentary, everyone seemed like they were victims of the leader. So, but they went to jail. So I was like, how could they go to jail? They were victims of him. Watching this documentary, I'm like, okay, no, you had to have known something was going on.
Yeah.
That's probably why you went to jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you don't, our system is pretty good in that sense, right? Like,
Yeah, totally. It's objective.
I'm just going to bring up Trump. They were saying that
Okay.
all these votes were fake.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
They try to bring it to court, or when it goes to the court level, a lot of it was dismissed because it's just stories. Nobody, there's not actually
Right, right,
factual
right,
what you're saying.
right, right, right,
But in
right.
the media, you can
Yes,
say whatever you want. But when it comes to
yes, yeah. You're
court,
right.
you're actually held liable. So if you're actually lying, you will go to jail. So that's where they were not
That's
saying those
interesting.
things.
That's so fascinating. Actually, you're right. Yeah, yeah. Because like you really have to wait till it goes to the court to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
Because our framing could really sway us in specific directions,
Yeah.
Like there's some people who won't listen to Michael Jackson music, so like, oh, did you see the Neverland doc? But then it's like, but do you see the counter to the Neverland doc?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember what I was gonna say. You know the thing with the Dalai Lama that's happening right now,
Mm-hmm.
the like the sucking of his tongue or whatever from
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first documentary, oh, this is so fascinating that you said that. Actually, yeah, it's all about framing. In the first documentary, they're like Keith has been doing such great work that even the Dalai Lama went to go visit him. Okay.
Okay.
So like the Dalai Lama actually visited Keith and like whatever, gave him the seal of approval. Like, yeah, good job. So in the second documentary they were watching right now, they said that they donated $2 million to the Dalai Lama.
Oh,
So he flew out to thank them.
see.
But you didn't get that in the first doc. You didn't say that in the first doc. You said that the Dalai Lama was so touched by his work that he visited him.
Hmm.
So it made you think like, is Keith saying some correct things? That's why I was curious about the
Right,
lessons.
right, right.
And then when I watched I was like, what are these teachings?
But
Because
that's
they
their
never talk about
framing,
the
right?
teachings.
Yeah, but that's the framing
Yeah.
to the outside public would be like, oh, he's coming here to thank us for our whatever talks. But maybe some people don't know that they gave them $2 million, but that's a different messaging.
Exactly,
If you do that.
exactly. Yeah. Actually, what he did was he like took a photo with the Dalai Lama and then he told everyone that, the Dalai Lama approves
See,
of our stuff. Yeah. You know what's crazy too? Like his claims, this would never get away with now because of the internet. He's having these crazy claims like he's the smartest person on earth, and that's what people believed. He's like he was in the Guinness Book of World Records. Turns out he was, but the way he got in was a loophole. He was like piggybacking other people's work. See, it's like if everyone puts in their like homework and then you put your name on it, it's like we all got the A, but you
okay.
didn't really do anything. So it's kind of like that thing, Other people's work got them into the Guinness Book,
But this
because
this
his name
feels
was
so
there.
weird. This feels just um like the North Korean thing. It's like always bowls 300. Like these are like
Yes,
ridiculous
like
stuff. Like, come on.
that's that's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's why I'm like watching. It's like, did nobody like raise any weird flags? What's going on right now? Like they're like, yeah, he's in the Guinness Book of World Records because he has the best IQ. He's a judo champion, but then it turns out he was a judo champion at like 10 years old.
See,
So it's
this
like,
is like, but again, yeah,
you know what I mean?
how you spin your story. It's like going to an interview, like how you talk in the interview.
Facts. Yeah, you're right.
This is what that is.
He was doing a demo in front of everyone where he's like, put your hands on mine and then mirror the
Hmm.
like my actions, right? So he did it with the girl, like as if we had our hands together, and then you're tracing my hand
Right. Okay.
with your hand,
Yeah.
right? And he was saying that when the mind gets in the way, you can't do it. So he did it first to a student. They couldn't keep up. Like as he was moving their hands, they couldn't figure out. And he's like, it's because your mind is in the way of you being able to do it. He's like, watch me. He's like, I'm letting my mind go. And then he did it and he could barely do it. He missed and he ended up like hitting her in the face. Like he punched her. And then it like kind of distracted everyone. He's like, oh, sorry, did I hurt you? And then she's like, no, I'm fine. He's like, yeah, but see, if you let the mind go, you're able to do these wonderful things. And I'm like, wait, you just distracted everyone by punching her in the face. So
But
we'd forget about the
but
fact that you couldn't keep up.
yeah, but that's the trick of a magician, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I mean. Yeah. It's like you're bait and switching everyone. But did nobody look at the fact that he couldn't do it? They're all like, oh, he punched her in the face. He's like, sorry, I got too carried away there.
yeah, no,
But it's like, but
you
you
get
exercise.
yeah, but like that's what happens, right? You're gonna get distracted. That's why he did that to cause that distraction, and you've forgotten
Right. Yeah.
what just happened. Now you're thinking only
Right.
about the
Yeah.
punch, right?
Yes.
So he understood how to trick the mind
Yeah.
really well, if that's the
Yeah.
case. So.
Yeah. Dude, trippy. But again, it's like if this was now, you just Google this. You're like, oh, dude, you didn't win that. You didn't actually do this. I think that's like the great benefit of the internet because you can like fact check things. There's so many like negatives too, but like if you're falling into a cult right now, thinking that somebody's like a great guru and you didn't Google them, it's like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
You know? Yeah. We started listening to another. What's the time?
1 hour 13 minutes.
Okay, cool. All right. I gotta head downtown. Last couple of things. We were listening to this podcast from those people. So those people who left and made the documentary, they started a podcast called like a little bit culty.
Okay.
So it talks about like different cults, and you know Osho, how I like Osho. Again, I didn't know he was like raping little kids. I was like, wait, what? Like, you just like read the message, you're like, oh, this is a good message. But anyways, so what they had Osho's longest devotee as a guest on the podcast, and what he was saying is that he's the reincarnation of Buddha, and that all of these people were with him in a past life, and now they're doing it again to help wake up the rest of society. So it's like, wait a minute. Like, did we not think this is a little weird? You know?
I mean, I don't know. I guess if you come from a skeptical mind, this is all
Oh yeah.
weird stuff.
Yep.
Like,
so totally. It reminds me of like my first black belt academy, right? And like it could have quickly turned into a cult because we were already doing the things that are very culty. You know, one thing was like, oh, he's got like 5 black belts, you know? And when you hear 5 black belts, you're like, oh, that's really fascinating, you know? But what I realized after getting my first black belt is once you have one, it's way easier to get more. Because like if I went into a karate studio right now or taekwondo studio and they saw my skill, they'd be like, you're basically a brown belt. Like, you're almost there.
Right.
We'll teach you a couple more, and then we'll give you a black belt. So you probably get in like a year or something like that, 2 years maybe. But it's the framing. Like, just like the documentary, it's like 5 black belts. How many years of experience do you have? You know, like, whoa, what's going on? You know, and then like one thing
because
that
to
they
a
say is
novice,
like,
because to a novice, it's like, well, he started each time from white belt.
exactly. That's what I thought too.
You see?
But then when I got my second one, I got a black belt right away. I was like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, you put in the time already. I was like, oh, it's this easy?
How it works? Yeah.
I get the hustle now. I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, let me just
But
like
sometimes
chase
it may
more.
not be like, I wonder if it's like, it could be just like unintentional. Sometimes you could say, like, yeah, I have 5 black belts. But they are making the story that he went through all that.
Right.
They have created that thing.
Yes.
Sometimes
But that's why I like to tell people,
consequences, right? That's where that comes from.
right? Like they're creating their own narrative. You're like putting in these like gems, and they're filling in the story of how. But that's what happened to us when we found out, like, oh, 5 black belts. Like, how do you get there? And we're thinking about our journey and how hard it is to get there.
But like, did anybody
like
maybe if you actually directly asked him?
No, because we don't ask the teacher.
See, that's the thing.
Right? Can't ask him. Can't ask him how he got it.
See, that's the problem.
Yeah, totally. But that's why I'm so liberal with the truth that I give out. I'm like, no, it's really easy once you get one. It's much more easier. Plus, like, the only hard one is jujitsu because you have to prove that one, you know? But I've even heard, I guess it's like levels of interest because like even judo, I was debating between going for grappling because I want a grappling black belt. I was like, do I go for judo or do I go for jujitsu? Right? Jujitsu seems like the harder one, so I want to go for that one because it's like it's the most realistic, right? It turns out you can get a judo black belt in 1 year. All you have to do is just practice one move over and over, and if you could this is in Japan, not here because it's more of a marketing thing. They want you to put in your years. But I was listening to a podcast with a guy, and he went to Japan for 1 year on study, and he got a black belt. But it's because he perfected one move, and then if you can do that move on somebody like higher than you, it's like, okay, yeah, you win all these tournaments,
Right. Okay.
and then you get your black belt, you know. But you only know one move. It's like, but we think a black belt knows like a million moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
The hustle. It's like it's always these like tricks to make you appear greater than. But even like as simple as breaking bricks, you know. Wow, I was so into that because like, what is this thing? And like Jared being like, it's just physics, you know. And you're like, what? And then he like explains it to you, and then I got even better at breaking bricks because I added the physics component to it. Like, like one of the, I mean, there's a spiritual component because you're afraid it's not going to work, so you pull back, right? But then as soon as Jared like explained physics to me, I became one of the best at breaking bricks. And
Mhm.
they're like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I just know that if I just need to follow through. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. Right.
Like I figured out the magic trick. But if you hold all these magic tricks in front of other people, they think you're a god.
Yeah.
You
Of
know,
course.
like
Yeah.
right? If you saw like Chris Angel back then, he'd be a god.
But I think, see,
Or a
there's
demon.
a no. I agree. I agree. Yeah, back then, sure, yeah. But that's why I like
Yeah.
magicians, because they're not lying to you. They're telling you it's a trick.
They tell you it's a trick. Yes, yeah. That's why I like magicians too. So the thing about this is back then, if you look in like yoga lore, they're called siddhis, Siddih,
Okay.
like that. And what it is like it's like a attainment, a spiritual attainment, right? So I can hold my breath for 4 minutes, and people are like, "Oh my god, that's crazy!" But it's a city. It's like a spiritual attainment through practice, right?
Hmm.
Or a magic trick. Like it's like they didn't have words for magic trick back then,
Right. Right.
so they called them cities, and then people would go around like the world collecting cities, which is
Hmm.
what David Blaine did. You know,
Okay.
like David Blaine when he stayed in the ice,
Yeah.
you know, like for all that time, he like met with all these like masters and tried to figure out their tricks. And then he learned all these like techniques, these cities, and he
Hmm.
became like the world's greatest magician,
Right.
you know? But they're all just like, but the masters he met, people were venerating them because they're like, oh my God, you're a god. But then he figured out their like technique.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, man.
That's humans. We always. It's very easy to venerate. Just put them on a
Yeah,
pedestal. That's what
right?
we do. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, why, why do we, well, I know why we do that.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, like seekers, you know,
Mhm.
you heard the term seeker. Um, okay, last thing because I got to bounce.
Yeah.
Um, the uh, the term seeker is someone who's like seeking an answer for something, right? And I was saying that everyone who comes to spiritual, like I was having a debate with Tara, but I believe I'm correct in this one. Everyone who comes to spirituality comes through trauma. They are looking to solve a problem, and that's why they're seeking.
Sure.
Because why would you seek if there's no problem, right?
Hmm.
If you had no issue, you'd be like, well, why do I need to look for an answer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like me, I'm afraid of like needles. I'm afraid of a lot of things, but that's what makes me a really good seeker because I'm like seeking an answer, right? It sounds mystical, but it's just built out of trauma. Anyways, so like they don't realize that the thing that they're seeking is a cessation of mind because where does the problem come from?
The mind.
The mind.
Hmm.
Right? Like my fear of needles is a mental trick. Like it's just your mind's like getting out of hand. I'm afraid of heights. Your mind's just getting out of hand. So like ultimately they're going from guru to guru looking for the answer only to realize that the guru doesn't hold the answer. You are the lock and the key to your own problem. But you could spend your whole lifetime under a guru, venerating them, hoping that your pain will go away one day
Hmm.
when the one holding the key to the pain is you.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you need to realize that you are your own guru. But that's where things get out of hand. Because then like manipulative gurus, they know this and they're like,
Again,
okay, I can
it
string
goes
you
back to
along.
that documentary, right?
Oh, which one? The vow or
No, no, no.
the one I'm talking about?
No. Like the guy that acted as a guru, but it wasn't. I forgot his name.
Oh, Kumari.
Yeah,
Kumari.
yeah. That's the one.
Yeah.
That was the lesson at
That
the
was an
end.
amazing talk. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But some
The fake guru.
people, yeah, but some people left. Like, no, this, like, as a shock. No, this is not correct. I know we need the guru.
I gotta watch that. Actually, no, because me and Tara on a binge for like cult documentaries. We were so fascinated by it. But that was the one you showed me. That Kumari one
Hmm.
is the one that really broke my mind. Like realized like, oh, this is just like marketing. You know, because he was just like copying certain tricks, and then like they believed so much in him. Remember, Eddie's like, oh, I'm fake, and some people didn't want to believe that he was fake. Like they showed the different
Yeah, yeah,
reactions
yeah,
to
yeah.
like
But it's also
you
like
know
it. he like yeah. There's other aspects of the documentary where it's like he knows what he's doing is a lie, but it's
Yep.
also detrimental on himself too because this is like I can't take
Yeah.
like how far can you do this, right? You're affecting someone's life.
It's a yeah, totally. It's a Vice documentary, right?
I I don't know if it was a Vice documentary, but he used to work for
Or
Vice.
yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. Because I remember it's like something with Vice
Maybe Vice
there. Yeah,
was
maybe
like producer, part of it somehow. I don't remember now. It's a long time ago.
but I have that saved on my hard drive. I gotta watch that again. Because yes, that was like one of the most like eye-opening ones. Because he was like, let me just make up all these different techniques
Yeah.
and make them believe that they're gonna work, and then just string them along. But that is what false gurus do. Yeah,
But I think it was like
but
I don't know everything. Maybe we have a different view of it. Like I would wonder like what you'll see when you rewatch it, what we missed or
oh, okay,
what we were
fair. Yeah,
focusing on
yeah.
specifically too. Because I recognize it as a similar thing in the sense that he's coming from an Indian background, and why are all these white people falling into these things where I don't believe in these things? So I felt there's a similarity in that sense to me and him. In that.
No, but it's like when you grew up with it. You know what it's like? It's like food. It's like I don't like. Yeah, do you like Indian food?
Yeah, I
Okay,
like
all right.
food
You're one.
generally.
Okay, you're one of the. So I hate Filipino food, but it's because I grew up eating Filipino food. So you're like, ugh, this is gross. You know, I want to try something new. So like, it almost seems like that. If you grow up surrounded by these gurus, then your parents are gonna be like, oh, it's just another fake guru.
Hmm.
But if you've never had Filipino food before, if you've never seen a guru, you're gonna be like so awestruck
Of
and
course.
astounded. You're like, this flavor's so great,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The novelty of it. Like and one that is in the Filipino community is witch doctors.
Hmm.
So like, like one of my cousins was sick, so then they brought him to a witch doctor, and then they pulled out a stick from his body, and then he felt better. I'm like, okay, that's a placebo, and I don't know what the magic trick was, how you pulled out the stick, but there's some magic trick there. It's like it didn't come out of his body, right? But if you grow up with like knowing about witch doctors, you're like not. It's not as novel to you. It's not as a surprise. But if I brought up a witch doctor to like a new community, they'd be like, oh, he must know something I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
just because of the novelty. So I think maybe that's why, because you're saying like, oh, he was Indian, but they're
Yeah,
not Indian.
that's one of the reasons why I was watched it. I remember that. Yeah.
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 I think it's because of the novelty. That's why they all stuck to it.
Well, yeah.
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 Because they're like, what does like Indian guru know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that is that that's the marketing thing, right? So like
Yeah.
when you
Totally.
say an Indian guru, they already have a view of that.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Actually, in the Osho podcast I was listening to, it was 1970, and people were flying to India to meet Osho because they've heard about this like guru, and they're like, when I saw him, I was like, oh, this is a guru. I'm like, well, you know what a guru looks like, bro? Yeah, right. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I got malas. What if everyone just wore malas? Like, would they all be gurus? I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
the
then they don't
mind's
see that. Like,
crazy.
why did he leave India? I think he was running from there, right? I think some issue
Yeah,
wasn't there like
because he
some
was a
legal
cult
issue?
leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the Indian government knew he was a cult leader, so they tried to push him out. So he went to America.
See,
Is in Wild Country.
yeah.
Yeah, trippy. Wait, hold on. Actually, all right, before we go, what do you think about this though? My stance is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So what I mean by that is I really think Osho's teachings are some of the best I've ever read. Right. But then I heard about his like in this podcast allegedly like these child rapings. Now I'm like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like the lessons are good, even though they're coming from an evil guy. Or do you throw the baby out with the bathwater? You know what I'm saying? Like
It comes down to the individual because that's
should I be saying like should I like denounce Osho publicly? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, oh, a
yeah.
lot of his lessons are really good, but he's a child rapist.
You can say that. I mean, why? I
You
don't
know what I'm
see
saying?
there's an issue with that. Someone could be a good researcher, but their research or whatever they did in that aspect was good stuff or like something interesting to learn about, but who they are as a person is weird.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because I was trying to figure that out. It's like if you say, "Oh, Osho was a brilliant mind," but they're like, "Oh, he's a child rapist," then you're like, "Ooh, do I have to caveat everything now?"
No, it's like Newton stuff,
You know what
right?
I'm saying?
Newton science is some of those is still being used as a science. It's fine. We still name it as Newton, right? But Newton was
Yeah.
crazy. Like he tried to prove his religion stuff. Like he was,
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, he
Oh.
was religious, right? But that's not what's really talked
Ah.
about.
But we ignore that. Yeah. You know what it is? It hasn't been long enough. If we just delete like negativity from history and we just look at the good stuff, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
like Genghis Khan, we're like, oh, he brought trade throughout the rest of the world,
Yeah.
but he killed millions of people.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
like,
we just look at the good.
I'm like, yeah, we view Genghis Khan a certain way, but also he raped like a lot of people. Like that's
Yeah,
that's one
totally.
thing. Like, isn't there
Right?
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
some
But
percentage of population that has like
I
a
think it's
third of
like
their
80.
DNA goes back down
Yeah,
to Genghis Khan? So it's like
yeah. Something like 80% of the world, or some crazy
something
number
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's like
you could trace your DNA to Genghis Khan. Yeah. So, but like, we don't think about that. We
yeah.
just think about like the trade or the fact that he's a brilliant tactician, you know?
Sometimes there's things left behind that was good, right? So those
Yeah.
things, what he left behind in understanding of trade and stuff, it ends up helping all of humanity. But like what he did,
So, yeah.
of course, is bad. But there is an outcome. There's a different outcome to
Yeah.
good and bad
Yeah.
to it all. That's this is the world.
So maybe the knee jerk reaction, if it's too recent,
It
we're
depends
like,
on the person. The
oh,
person
they're
has a
evil.
direct trauma to it, right? Of course, they're gonna say
True.
for them,
Yeah.
yeah, of
Facts.
course, yeah. Like even in the documentary, they're like there are some teachings I agree, but like it was weird.
Yeah. He's a weird guy. That's all it is. A weird guy. Yeah. It almost feels like saying like, "Hey, he's a weird guy." Doesn't feel strong enough.
I know,
You
I
know,
know.
you
Yeah, yeah,
almost
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
be like, no. I'm saying like we get it. It's like, "Hey, he's a weird guy," but other people will be like, "He's a goddamn rapist." And you're like, "Hey, he's an evil guy." Yeah, he's evil. You know, like you have to.
But it's such a yeah. We have a different view of the word evil and stuff. I just don't. It's such there's
Yeah.
such a
No, I
different
get you.
connotation or to that, right?
Yeah. It's like there's some good in every quote unquote evil person. Like Hitler, you know, uh,
Like if you watch,
was like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
no, if you watch, like he was really good with his dogs. Like just talk about Hitler.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure somebody loved him. Like somebody had a different viewpoint of him.
Yeah,
But that's a Dallas perspective. It's like seeing the good and the bad, you know?
or even like I forgot his name, but the documentary that was there on Netflix, or not documentary, there's series of that Dahmer, right? Yeah,
Oh yeah. I haven't watched it though. I heard it's
yeah, it's
crazy.
like it's crazy. He's a crazy guy, but like then like when he meets his dad, like he's
But loving?
uh, in that sense, it's such a like it gives that perspective. It's very tricky.
Oh,
It's like how does a
humanizes them.
dad, yeah, like yeah, right? Like how can the dad still loves him because it's his son, but he does not
Right.
like what he had done, right? You can have that aspect.
Totally. I heard that was some of the controversy about the documentary. They were humanizing him, and people didn't like that because they just wanted to focus on the killing. But then when you saw like the humanity,
But the
people didn't like
aspect,
that.
but the thing is that we're all human. There's no
Right. Yeah. And we also don't know like the chain of events that led to it. Like I'm sure if I was him, I probably would have led to the same, you know,
yeah.
situation.
I think what they mean by humanize is where I think it's like understanding where he came from, and that
People don't want
people
that.
don't
People
want
don't want
that.
that.
People want just like no,
Yeah.
this guy's evil. We want to hate him.
Burn in hell.
Yeah, yeah. We want
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
We
totally.
want that. Yeah. Like saying like, oh, he had a bad childhood. We understand why his that trauma was there, what he was trying to
Yeah, yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah.
and that is the humanizing aspect that I think people had
But
a
we don't like that.
yeah,
We just want to see him burn on a stake.
yeah, yeah. That's why we used to do that. But
Okay, wait. All right. What are we at?
It's
I just want to throw
easy.
this
I think
one
you know
last
what it is.
gem
I think
in.
it's
Yeah.
it's easy when it's simple as good and evil. It's just
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
to understand
Black
that.
and white.
Once you've
Yeah.
made it gray, it's I don't know if I can hate this guy. I don't like you're making me
Yeah.
understand his feelings. Like no, I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. 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 Totally. 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 In relation to that, okay, the last thing because I really gotta go. But in relation to what you're saying, though, uh, let's talk about Jesus. So Jesus, people love Jesus, right? Like, oh, how could the Romans kill him?
Sure.
How can you know? How can we just put him on a cross, whip him, and stuff? That's so evil. You know that at the time the Romans were in charge, and what Jesus was doing was considered treason, right? He was saying that we should rise up against the Romans. If you did that now, you'd go to jail for treason,
Mm-hmm.
against like your country. If you're like, oh, the Canadian government, we should rise up against it. That's not good. So we like to think it's like the documentary we're talking about, the two different Nexium documentaries. It's like the magician and like the black belts, and like the framing, all the things we spoke about. It's like, how do you frame this story? Because to the people that believe in Jesus, he was like a loving, kind person. But to the Romans, he was a treasonous person trying to take over the rule.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
he
why I
could
said
have he could have ended up on the
if you're on the Roman side, he's bad. If you're on Jesus'
Yeah.
side, he's good. That's
yeah,
it.
right. But that's all life, right now. It's like
Yeah,
good
exactly.
and bad. We just choose not to see the bad side when we want the good side to win, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, I really gotta jump to this Mother's Day thing.
Okay.
Till next week.
All right.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
No. Just yeah. When are you going, anyways? The trip.
Oh, Philippines? Yeah. I leave 31st
Oh, this
of
month.
May. Yeah, this month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, why? You thought it was next month?
No. I'm just curious because how soon
Yeah,
are you?
June
How
1st.
soon you're gonna be like playing Zelda?
Oh, yeah. No, I won't be playing for like. Maybe I'll start it. I don't know. I could play it more on the plane. I don't know. Maybe I will play a little Zelda. We'll see. But yeah, I leave the 31st, and then I'm back on the 15th.
Okay.
June 15th. So like 2 weeks of no podcasts, something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Until next time, take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.